So what are health savings accounts, and can they really be converted into supercharged, super tax efficient retirement accounts? Are they a powerful tool that we need to stop everything now and learn more about, or are they just kind of a niche tool that works for some people but not all people? And I'll cut right to the chase, and I'll share with you, I consider them to be super powerful tools that we want to learn more about. So let's go for a walk and talk more about this, and be sure to stay to the end, because like anything, it's not all pros with no cons. And at the end, I'm going to talk to you about some of the negatives with health savings accounts. But first, let's start off with the main benefit of health savings account. And you know, the trifecta for a retirement plan is if you can put money in with pre-tax dollars like you can with a regular IRA, if it grows tax-free like a regular IRA and a Roth IRA would, and if you can take money out tax-free. That works for a Roth IRA. Both the Roth IRA and a regular IRA give you two of those, but not all three. With the regular IRA, you put money in pre-tax dollars, it grows tax-free, but when you take it out, unfortunately, you're going to pay ordinary income tax on that money. With a Roth IRA, when you put money in with after-tax dollars, not with pre-tax dollars. That's different than a regular IRA. But then with a Roth, it also grows tax-free. And then the benefit with the Roth, of course, is when you take money out, you take it out without incurring taxes on that. So most retirement accounts give you two of the benefits, but not three. It doesn't give you the trifecta, all three of them, from a tax standpoint. And with a health savings account, if you do it right, you're putting the money in with pre-tax dollars, it's growing tax-free, and when you take the money out, if you spend it on qualified medical expenses, or at least have receipts from previous medical events where you spent that money for a qualified medical expense, then when you take that money out, that money is taken out in tax-free dollars. So super powerful tool. What does it take in order to be able to set up a health savings account? There are no income limits. You know, with a Roth IRA and with a lot of retirement tools, the tools phase out as you're making more money. But with a Roth IRA, with a health savings account, that's not the case. So as long as you have a high deductible healthcare plan for your health insurance, and what that means is for an individual, at least a $1,500 deductible, and for a family, at least a $3,000 deductible. As long as you have that, then it doesn't matter how much money you're making. So if you're making $500,000 a year and there's other retirement tools that you can't use, first off, good for you for making $500,000 a year, but you can use a health savings account. There is no income restriction there. You do need to have that high deductible healthcare plan, but that's really the only criteria. So, you know, what are health savings account, and why does the government give us such a nice tool? So they were really set up because here in the United States, most people don't pay their doctor directly. Enough of us do pay the doctor directly, but a lot of folks don't. And so we're not as cost sensitive to our healthcare costs as maybe we should be. What the doctor charges. For instance, I think it's kind of faux pas here in the United States. I do not think it should be faux pas, but I think it is kind of faux pas when a doctor says you need a procedure to ask, hey, what's that going to cost me? I'm not afraid to ask that, but I know a lot of people don't ask their doctor what procedures are going to cost. So the government's like, look, we need the consumers to be more educated and to take into account cost. So if we give them a high deductible insurance plan, then folks are going to be paying out of pocket for kind of their everyday medical expenses, their medicine. Let's say you think you have strep throat and you go to the doctor for that. You're going to ask, hey, what's this cost? And hopefully that'll help drive down the cost of healthcare. So that was the initial idea with the health savings accounts. Now, the nice thing is you don't have to actually, when you go to the doctor, you don't have to pay for that doctor visit. You don't have to pay for the medicine with your health savings account. You can just pay for that out of pocket if you can afford to do that. And if you can't afford to do that, then you can actually let the account grow. You can save those receipts. Let's say you think you have strep throat and you go to the doctor, and I'd like to say it costs $50, but I think it's closer to $100. Let's say say you do that in 2023, well, you can save that $100 receipt that you paid for out of pocket. At any time in the future, you can take that $100 out of your health savings account, tax-free. Just hold on to that receipt so you can prove, hey, there was this expense that I incurred, and I have not taken the money out of the health savings account yet for that. And so over years, you could see where, you could have thousands of dollars, maybe tens of thousands of dollars of qualifying medical expenses that you kept a receipt for, but you did not take the money out of the health savings account. So it can grow. Now, you are the owner of your health savings account, which is different than like a flexible spending account, which people confuse with an HSA. It's different than that. It's different than a 401k because you get to choose who the custodian is. Now, sometimes your company will offer to put money into your health savings account because it saves them money on insurance if you opt for the high deductible plan. So let's say the company saves $3,000 a year for your family if you choose the high deductible plan. Well, they may say, hey, we'll put $2,000 a year into your health savings account if you choose the high deductible, because it's a win for you. You get the $2,000 from the company, and it's a win for the company if they save $3,000. So I hope that makes sense. So how much money can you put into a health savings account? Again, no income restrictions, and you just have to have a high deductible insurance plan, so which is $1,500 deductible for an individual and $3,000 for a family. But an individual can actually put in $3,850 into an HSA every year, and somebody that has family coverage, they can put in $7,750 a year into a health savings account. Now, if you're over 55, good news, bad news is I am over 55, and I should say I have a health savings account. I'm a huge fan of the health savings account. Some years I benefit by having a health savings account because my family doesn't use many healthcare services, and in some years I'm behind because unfortunately maybe my family had to go to the doctor more than what we planned. Despite that, I still like having a health savings account because I do think there's just insane tax benefits to having it, and I want to have that as a retirement tool. So again, the limits that you can put in a year: $3,850 for yourself, $7,750 if you have coverage for you and your family. And if you're over 55, you can put in an extra $1,000 a year. Now, you can do this up until you're 65, because at 65 years old, you qualify for Medicare, which is not a high deductible plan. So you can put in that extra $1,000 a year really for 9 or 10 years. I'm not sure which year you get disqualified in, which is another thing I should say. I'm gonna leave a link in the description for the IRS website that's gonna tell you more about health savings accounts and what qualifies for qualified medical expenses. In general, what qualifies is visits to the doctor, medicine, obviously, hospital stays, actually long-term care insurance you can pay for from there. You can pay for medical premiums, nursing home expenses. Again, I do want to encourage you, I'm not an accountant. I do want to encourage you to go to the IRS website, talk to an accountant, and or work with a fee-only financial advisor for the details. Now, I promised at the end I was going to share with you some of the downsides. And one of the downsides of a health savings account is, unlike an IRA or a Roth IRA, there's really not a good tool for your kids to inherit a health savings account. The reason that's an issue is if you were to pass away and your spouse has already passed away, then the government, they're going to have to transfer that into a taxable account, and that's going to be a fair amount of taxable income in one calendar year. So that's a pretty big negative with it. Also, if you take money out of your account for reasons if you don't have receipts and it's a non-qualified medical expense, there's a 20% penalty on taking money out of the account unless it's for qualified medical expenses. Now, once you turn 65, that 20% penalty goes away. In both cases, though, you do have to pay ordinary income tax on the withdrawal. Now, again, if you take it out for a qualified medical expense, you don't have to pay ordinary income tax on that, and you don't have that 20% penalty. But those are two very serious downsides to this. So hopefully you're glad you stayed until the end, because the negatives, you know, you need to know about the pros and the cons, and you know, I'm all about that. I want to make sure that I share with you, my viewers, my community. I'm not trying to promote anything, A or B. What I'm trying to do is give you good information so that you can make the right decision for you and your family. And this is not financial advice. Really, my goal here is you look at that and say, hey, you know, this looks really interesting. Let's learn more. Let's research it on our own, or let's talk to our accountant about it, or maybe let's call up a fee-only financial advisor and find out more about these health savings accounts, because they're probably one of the most underutilized retirement tools out there. And when you do retire, you want to make sure that you have money. You know, a lot of people, kind of a rule of thumb was put as much money as you can in your 401k, and certainly up to your company match. That makes a lot of sense. But above that, boy, if all of your retirement assets are in tax-deferred retirement vehicles, then every dollar you take out as distributions is going to be taxable income. So you really do want to have, you know, different buckets. You want to have a taxable bucket, which is kind of like your bank account. You want to have an account that's what I call a tax me now but not later account. That's a Roth IRA. So you want to have all three of those. So let's say you, outside of Social Security and any other, you know, maybe a pension that you have coming in or rental income, if you need income, you have ways to get money, you have ways to get cash that are not all going to trigger ordinary income. You can take a little bit out of your IRA, which is going to trigger ordinary income, but not all of it. And then you can take some out of your bank account, you can take some out of your Roth IRA, and kind of, you get to decide at some level what tax rate you want to pay. So it can be super powerful. And maybe this fourth bucket is your health savings account. And you can, you know, it's not unheard of for people to have $300,000 in their health savings account. And you might say, you know, what the heck am I ever going to do with $300,000 in a health savings account? Particularly if you don't want to pay ordinary income tax on the withdrawals. Well, you know, again, save your receipts, because the receipts never expire. As long as you had a medical expense and you save the receipt while you had an HSA open, then you can keep that receipt and use it to justify a withdrawal without having to pay ordinary income tax. Again, talk to your accountant on that. But so that's as you're going. But then, you know, unfortunately, getting old is not for the faint at heart, right? It's not for the faint at heart, and it also can be expensive. Fidelity did a study in 2022 that said the average 65-year-old couple is likely going to spend $315,000 in aggregate on healthcare costs between the time they're 65 and the time they pass away. So unfortunately, I think it's going to be relatively easy for us to spend $300,000 for healthcare, even if we haven't saved the receipts. I wouldn't advise doing that. I'd advise saving the receipts as you go. So the main features, again, you can put money into a house savings account with pre-tax dollars. It grows tax-free. And then if you take it out for qualified medical expenses, that's going to be tax-free as well. So it's got the trifecta. The main negatives are if you take it out for a non-qualified expense, it's a 20% penalty if you're below 65. And unlike a Roth IRA, it tends not to be a good tool. I should mention that you can leave it to your spouse. Your HSA can transfer over to your spouse, and it then becomes your spouse's health savings account. So that's the summary of the video. I hope you found it helpful. I hope it encourages you to do your own research and to make up your own mind as to whether or not a health savings account makes sense. I hope you found the video helpful. If you did, give me a thumbs up. It really does help the channel grow. And leave me a comment. I do try to read all the comments every day, and I get a chance to reply back on at least a dozen, oftentimes a couple dozen comments as well. So hopefully I'll be commenting on or replying to one of your comments soon if I haven't already. And until next time, I'm Azul, encouraging you to take full advantage of the youth of your senior years. Remember, you're only young once. Use this time wisely.